And now it's my great pleasure to call back the creative genius of our community, Scott Grace.
Hello, juicy people. So nice to see all of you. Alan Cohn said that laughter is God's remedy for fear. And I'm wondering if you are ready to apply it today. A luscious liberal coating. That's what we're going to be doing. We're going to be taking levity and bringing it to whatever we feel grave about it. Levity heals gravity. And love is where we're going. But before we get to love, can we hear it for sex and money? I was 16 years old when I first became interested in metaphysics and spirituality, and I was attracted to all of these books that were saying, you create your own reality, and visualize what you want, and you will draw it into your life. And so I decided to experiment with the two things that were on my mind as a 16-year-old. What would a 16-year-old treat for? Sex and money. Now, many of you still treat for sex and money. But anyway, I started writing, I am a money magnet. Over and over again. I am a money magnet. I was visualizing a magnet in my head, bringing all kinds of wonderful financial surprises to me. And after 2 days of doing it, I walked into a New York City bus, and I sat down, and I looked down, and I saw a $5 bill. I claimed it, put it in my pocket, thought that was rather interesting. Next day I did my money magnetism affirmations, and I walked into a subway, and I sat down right next to an unclaimed loose $5 bill. 2 days in a row. And I was 16 years old. I had never found money. I found dollars and quarters, but $5 bills just sitting there. I couldn't deny that somehow my mind had attracted some money. So what did I do? I stopped doing affirmations. It was so threatening to my belief system to actually accept that I had the power to create with my thoughts. Then what would that mean? I would have to stop blaming my parents, the government. I would have to give up my cherished victim stories. I wasn't ready to do that. And the other thing I was working on attracting, a girlfriend. I wanted to stop being a virgin. And that worked too. I attracted a girl, lady, woman, fellow adolescent who was interested in me, who was attractive, who wanted to get to know me and started caring about me and wanted to, have sex. So what did I do? I rejected her. And I didn't even understand why at the time, but I couldn't let it in. I couldn't accept. I couldn't allow what I really wanted. And upon hindsight, I look at it and I say, well, that's because I was already in a committed monogamous relationship with my ego, with my inner critic, with my sense of low self-esteem. It just didn't have the space to allow something new and different in. And at that time, my song, the song that I kept singing to myself and to God, was not something that Karen Drucker wrote. I was not singing a positive song. What I was singing this was my unconscious song that I kept singing to the universe. You tell me to keep breathing, that your love is guiding my way. Why does my little ego want to say, don't take my pain away from me. Don't leave me here without my misery. 'Cause if I let go, then what might I do? This waking up is hard to do. Remember when I loved to fight, got so much pleasure just from being right. Now pointing fingers makes me blue. This waking up is hard to do. They say that waking up is hard to do. So many lifetimes of sleeping through. Don't say maybe I could. Instead of waking up, I think I'll hang on to my victimhood. Well, Jesus said, only God is real. My therapist tells me to feel. Seems every year there's more issues. This waking up is hard to do. They say that waking up is hard to do. It's hard enough to turn off the tube. Don't say maybe I can. Instead of waking up, I think I'll stay in couch potato land. My challenges, they make me wiser. They help me grow just like some fertilizer. Wish I could grow without doo-doo. This waking up is hard to do. So learning how to attract what we want with our mind is one part of the process. And the other thing is learning how to have it, learning how to receive it, learning how to graciously allow our good into our life. And it's all about deservability. It's all about knowing at a core level that we're worth it right now. And I have an inner critic that tells me, not yet. You still have more work to do. You've got to heal this, fix this, change that, heal that. And it's a constant song that I'm singing to myself. And if I could really listen to the lyrics, it's, you're not enough, you're not enough. And occasionally to get relief from that, it's, she's not enough, he's not enough, Obama's not doing well, you know, it's a constant critical voice, always seeing the glass half empty or empty. And when I realized that that was my biggest addiction, I needed the 12 steps of recovery. I had been alcoholic, I'd been this-aholic, codependent-aholic, lots of holics, lots of isms, and all the 12-step work I did helped me with those substances and relationships. But the mind, that was the source of all that addictive behavior, just trying to get some relief from what's going on in here. So I tried to find a group that would help me, couldn't find any, had to start my own, so I called it Critterholics Anonymous. How many people here think you might be a recovering Critterholic? Yeah, I think we're all in the same boat in this culture. I wasn't always a Critterholic. I used to be able to enjoy a few harmless judgments of myself and others, you know, at parties and social gatherings. But then as it started to become an addiction, I would wake up in the morning and start my day with a double shot of straight self-criticism. When I started criticizing myself for how much I had been criticizing myself, it began to dawn on me that I had a problem, but where do I go for help? I hadn't hit bottom yet. I needed to hit bottom. And as fate would have it, I was driving my car one day, and a policeman pulled me over. He had clocked me on his radar, judging myself at 84 times per hour. And he arrested me for disturbing my own peace, inner child abuse, and driving myself crazy. And it was a Sunday, and when I told him I was on my way to my office, he added resisting arrest. Now, how many people here are guilty of resisting arrest? Your body says, Bubala, take a break, turn the computer off. And you're like, no, I just got 10,000 more emails to... We're all been resisting arrest in this culture. So I went to court, and I was asked to be my own prosecuting attorney because they know I had so much experience in that role already. And I said yes, and I won my case. I was found guilty. But the judge let me go free. He said, you got to go to this hospital and get treatment for what he thought I had, which was chronic critique syndrome. And the doctors that examined me immediately placed me on the critical list. And they said, young man, if you don't learn to be more gentle with yourself, you are going to have a cardiac arrest. And I didn't want that. So I started relaxing and resting my critic. And one of the tools in relaxing and resting that inner critic is to just observe it. To observe it and say, ridiculous! Or something that brings amusement to the seriousness of that voice. Amusement is such a wonderful healer. It's an incredible healer. Many of you know I have a 2.5-year-old daughter. And one day she hit me. And I found myself about to hit her back. And time stopped. And I looked at my hand. And I had this little conversation with my hand. And I said, excuse me, what are you about to do? I'm going to teach her nonviolence. I'm going to hit her so she knows how it feels and she won't want to do that anymore. And I said, excuse me, I'm glad you have the intention of teaching my daughter nonviolence, but I think she needs to learn that from role modeling and not from violence. So my hand went down. And I've had a few moments like that where I've really had to stop my hand and look at my own behavior and the whole belief system that you can learn something, that you can grow by using violence. And isn't the inner critic a form of violence? Violence towards ourselves? And the intention, the loving intention of that critical voice is, I'm going to try to make this person a better person. I'm going to try to make you a better person by beating up on you so that you'll do better. Does that work for any of you? Does it motivate you? It doesn't work. It's kind of like an old, outdated software system that has no relevance or meaning or usefulness. Maybe 100 years ago it worked, but we don't learn and grow through fear tactics anymore. It's almost like having a terrorist inside of your head. And I think it's good to not negotiate with a terrorist. So we're going to bring some love, laughter, and levity to the inner critic. And in general, the ego, when I use the word ego, I'm not talking about the healthy sense of identity that Freud may have been using, but I'm talking about the negative chatter in our heads. It's always either blaming ourselves, blaming God, blaming, the Republicans, the liberals, or whatever. That sense of always looking for something wrong. And that's what we're going to be talking about with ego. And I have this little poem I wrote. One day, I was reading Dr. Seuss to my daughter a lot. Such a wonderful, wonderful spiritual teacher. Let's hear it for Dr. Seuss. And one of his last books was, Oh, the Places You'll Go? Is that what it is? Oh, the Places. And it's kind of written for adults. In his children's way, he actually was writing for bigger people. And I was reading it, and the next day I was in meditation in the morning, and I heard a voice that said, Hi, I'm Dr. Seuss. And I would like you to help me write my final book. And I said, wow. So I took notes, and here it is. And I think it was a little bit of Dr. Seuss, a little bit of Eckhart Tolle, and some Jeshua Ben Joseph mixed in. Your ego will travel with you on this earth and be your companion for worser or worse. It pretends it's your friend, your bestest amigo, and it pours on the guilt. That's the mark of the ego. It's there to protect you, to help you be strong, so it has to remind you you've done it all wrong. You're weak and you're lazy, you don't have a clue. That's your drill sergeant ego trying to motivate you. The ego wants you to be all you can be, so it gives you these pep talks all day and for free. Oh, the places you'll go and the guilt trips you'll travel as your ego plays judge and bangs down on its gavel. But you always can get some relief from your shame by projecting it onto the others you'll blame. For that is the ego at its beastiest best. It nurses its grievances close to its chest. Republicans, liberals, your parents, your ex. The world is just teeming with folks to correct. If only these fools would conform to your ways, you could get on with life without further delays. The ego's always finding new gripes to complain about, turns molehills to mountains of yikes to feel pain about. Sometimes the ego stuff gets you so stuffy, you come down with a cold or an ouchie, more roughy. But there's no time for rest, so get up out of bed. If you're just here and now, you won't get ahead. Your to-do list must buzz like the bees when they're busying, filling your days till they're endlessly dizzying. Oh, the places you'll go and the people you'll see, all through the lenses of what's in it for me. Because the ego believes there is something it lacks, and until it is found, it won't let you relax. Perhaps you'll find it in the next one you date. True love at first sight with a soul kind of mate. The romance is hot till the climate turns cold. Because when two halves collide, they do not make a whole. It's great till the love gets obscured by control. For when two halves collide, they cannot make a whole. So the ego moves on, ever constantly striving, addicted to seeking, afraid of arriving. You're traveling fast at the speed of surviving, with fear in the driver's seat, doing the driving. Or maybe you're on the fast track of success. You're constantly driven to be great, better, best. You're a mover, a shaker, a real-time achiever. You're a real self-made man or dazzling diva. You're rich and you're famous and you make quite a splash. You're on top of the world and you're rolling in cash. You drive the right car, you've married the right spouse. Today, lunch with Oprah, tomorrow, the White House. But at night, insecurity pays you a call, because you know any time you could lose it all. Your shrink says to rest, your spouse sure agrees. Your doctor says, ulcers, take 14 of these. You know you should slow it down sooner or later, but your foot is just glued to that accelerator. Your ego consoles, well, at least you're successful. It's a sign of success to be constantly stressful. You've made it to prime time and everyone loves you. But your self-esteem's based on what others think of you. And opinions can change in the blink of an eye, which is why you need meds just to sleep and get by. One day when you failed and succeeded enough, you witness your ego exposed in the buff. And you realize behind all its protective clothing that the ego is simply a state of self-loathing. And beyond that, you realize the biggest of deals. You've dreamt up the ego. It's not even real. So for richer, for poorer, in all kinds of health, you make a commitment to loving yourself. You release the projections you placed upon others and find through forgiveness that peace is discovered. You realize the love that you searched for outside you is what you are made of and can't be denied you. So you let go your worries, your plans, your pills, put some logs on the fire and learn how to chill. Your old superstitions have gone up in smoke, like you can't rest in peace until after you croak. You no longer fear death, or for that matter, life, because you know that all matters are safe and all right. While resting in peace, you will soon be inspired to go out in the world with some newfound desires. Desires that spring from your heart and your soul, and wherever they take you, you're going there whole. For the ego is now in the passenger seat, lets down the window and takes in the treats. There's no need to hurry, you're taking it slow, because the journey's as rich as the places you'll go. Where you are going, you don't need to know, for the journey's as rich as the places you'll go. The journey's as rich as the places you'll go. Thank you. There's more. Thank you, Dr. Seuss. So when I was 18, I was waiting in line for the bathroom at McDonald's, and just as it was my turn, a woman in a wheelchair came up, and the woman looked like she was in her 90s, and her nanny said, "Could we go ahead of you?" And I said, "Sure." So I waited a little longer for these two women to go in, and when they came out, the nanny wheeled this elderly woman right up to me, and she got out of her wheelchair very slowly, and with a very shaking body, she looked me in the eyes, and she hugged me, and she kissed me on the lips. And she said, "Thank you. I love you." And I was in shock. I was deliciously in shock. My mind tried to categorize her so I could feel safe. Was she too old and senile to... She forgot that people don't go around kissing strangers on the lips. And I had all my categories and boxes. And that's what we try to do. When we judge people, we're trying to feel safe. We're trying to create some safety for ourselves. But there was something so clear and precious and lucid about her eyes and her intentionality. She was very conscious, very clear, and very loving. And she blessed me. She gave me a darshan with her lips and her eyes and her hug. And I went home that night and I said to God, I do not want to wait until I'm that age before I feel safe enough, courageous enough, willing enough to give my love to the world. And from that prayer, from that longing, from that sense of desire came a song. And I'm going to ask my friend Jean Marie to come up and sing the chorus. And we'll close with this song. It's called Teach Me How to Love. And Bodhi. I want to wake up in the morn and know what I'm made of. Oh, great Spirit, teach me how to love. I want to hear the birds at dawn and know what they sing of. Oh, great Spirit, teach me how to love. I know quite well just how to hide behind these rusty walls inside. But now my heart is calling me to rise above. Teach me how to love.
Teach me how to love. Teach me how to love.
Teach me
how to love. Teach me how to love.
Shined on just a chosen few who fit me like a glove. Oh, great Spirit, teach me how to love. Teach me to shine on everyone just like the sun above. Holy Spirit, teach me how to love. I know know quite well just how to hide behind these rusty walls of pride. Could it be I'm safer here? I've asked a jury of my fears. I'd rather ask a dolphin or a dove. Teach me how to love.
Teach me, teach me, teach me how to love.